Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday Wisdom. This time, we are in Proverbs chapter 14. Once again, Solomon has a lot of great information for us. We just listen and learn. Verse 1 The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her hands. Now, Solomon's not talking about a literal building here, talking about building the home. And the wise woman builds her home. She supports her husband. She strengthens and encourages her children. She's doing all she can to make positive their lives. But a foolish woman, she'll tear it apart. She'll rip it apart. And of course, in our world today, we see examples of both of these. And the wise will choose to follow the wise women. Verse 6, a scoffer seeks wisdom and finds none, but knowledge is easy to one who has understanding. You know, scoffers making fun of everything anyway, and so if wisdom were to proverbially hit them in the face, they'd somehow miss it. They'd be unable to see it. But one who is striving to understand how to live life in a way pleasing to God, knowledge is going to be easy for them to find. Verse 8, the wisdom of the sensible is to understand his way, but the foolishness of fools is deceit. You know, the wise person knows why he's doing what he's doing. And the wise person knows if he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, he should change it. He should improve. But people that are foolish, that are self-confident, that believe in only themselves, well, obviously they wind up deceiving themselves. 9, fools mock at sin, but the upright at heart there is goodwill. And fools do. Boy, we see it every day. People laughing at sin, people embracing sin, people no longer afraid of sin, people no longer afraid of the consequences of sin. And oh, what a horrible, horrible world it is creating for everyone. I'll confess something. I am greatly afraid of the world my younger grandchildren are going to grow up in. It's not the world I grew up in, and it's because more and more people are mocking sin. Let's get this straight. If God calls something sin, it doesn't matter if everybody in the world gets together and votes to change that. This is not a democracy. God doesn't give power to the many. So if God says it's a sin, it's a sin. And it's always going to be one. And the world really needs to come to recognize that and quit mocking at things that are destroying them and destroying the people around them. Well, verse 12, there is a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Wow. How we can deceive ourselves. In fact, Jeremiah will write that the heart is desperately deceitful. You know, people today are convincing themselves that wrong things are okay. Doesn't change God. Doesn't change what God has said about it. But they're convincing themselves of that. And because they do, they think, well, we're perfectly okay. Everything is fine, when it's leading them to spiritual death and ultimately eternal death. 15, The naive believes anything, but the sensible man considers his steps. Oh, naiveness, wow, that's a common commodity today. You know, P.T. Barnum used to argue a sucker was born every minute. And there are a lot of naive people that will believe just about anything. Just because you read it in a newspaper, you hear it on the news, you see it on Facebook, or you hear it out in the community, doesn't make it right, doesn't make it true. But boy, the naive will grab hold of anything. So we have to be very, very cautious. We have to be sensible. We have to consider our steps. Well, pressing on. Verse 22, will they not go astray who devise evil? But kindness and truth will be to those who devise good. You know, it seems like when people start planning and plotting evil, it just gets bigger and bigger and worse and worse. And what a mess people can create because they're thinking about doing bad things and instead of trying to think about doing good things. Well, verse 26, in the fear of the Lord, and there's one of our themes of the book of Proverbs, there is strong confidence, and his children have a refuge. Oh, here we go, parents. Here we go. We need to be in reverence for God. Not just for our own sakes, but for the sakes of our children and our grandchildren and those that are around us. The fear of the Lord gives us the confidence we need to live life for Christ. And we need to have that confidence in our world today. We need to be bold livers for Jesus. The world needs to see that, and it is a desperate need. We don't need to be like those that Jesus talked about that hide their light under a basket. No, we need to let our light shine brightly so people can see a better way. Then he goes on in verse 27, the fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, that one may avoid the snares of death. Now we see why children have a refuge. Mom and dad are trying to avoid the pitfalls of sin and the results that sin brings, and in doing so, they show their children the way. We need that today. We really, really do. 29, he who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is quick-tempered exalts folly. Oh, wow. How we see that so much. People just explode, and they do crazy, sometimes cruel and mean things, when if they would just learn to control themselves, to be calm, oh, how much better our world could be. 32, the wicked is thrust down by his wrongdoing, but the righteous has refuge when he dies. Yeah, righteousness, again, that's one of those themes of the book of Proverbs, right living. Those who live right have hope when they physically die. But those who live wrong, when they physically die, they're going to face the wrath of God. And you know, the Hebrew writer tells us it's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of a living God. We can go through Scripture and see how many examples of this is just so very true. And then a truism, verse 34, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a disgrace to any people. Wow. Nations of our world today are living embodiments of this passage of Scripture. So many people, so many nations have forgot what it's like to do right. And because they have, they are disgracing themselves. They're disgracing their nation. Sin doesn't make a people better, it makes a people worse. Righteousness makes people better. And may we seek that day by day as we strive to live for God.